Everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. It's Wednesday. Everything's looking good today. We got my new Joe's Shop logo shirt, brand new. Just got it with Joe's new logo. Also flying the post flag today, the actually storm flag, because we're expecting some bad rain later on, and we got a lot going on today. So let's get downstairs. Okay, we're back down the shop, and I had to change into my shop gear. I didn't want to get Joe's new shirt all dirtied up, and loving that new logo, and I love the old logo too. So thanks very much for that, Joe. A couple things to talk about today. First of all, I can't tell you how many emails that I get from subscribers and friends that say, how do you stay so positive, man? I'm going through a little bit of a depression, and I understand it, especially coming out of this whole COVID thing and everything. And it's not just you. If you're feeling it and you're fighting it, it's normal. Don't let it stress you out. I'll tell you one thing. The reason I stay so positive, I told you, is because I stopped watching the mainstream media, all of it, completely, newspapers, everything. You got to eliminate that from your life, because that's a cancer for you. So get that out of your life. If you're even 20 minutes of news a day is enough to screw you up, and I'm a testament to that. I cannot watch it. I know I go into a depression just like some of you are. So I'm telling you, cut that right out, and that's 100%. And also, you got to understand something. You know, I might be old-fashioned, but I do believe that the truth eventually will come to light, and it certainly is, and it's proven me right. I do believe, right always wins over wrong. I mean, there's wars and there's battles. You're always going to have, you're going to lose some battles, but eventually the truth will come out and right will come out, and you'll see it's coming. It's happening. Things are happening, and it's looking good. Everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to. Trust me on that one. So with that, we got a couple things. I got my new old stock bulbs in for that old lantern. Let's get that fired up. Now, you remember this is the lantern we're trying to get working today, but what I did is I ordered online on eBay. eBay's great for certain things, isn't it? These Westinghouse new old stock. Look at that box, huh? This is just unbelievable. Look at that. Westinghouse Mazda lamps, new old stock. You gotta love it. Here's the lamp number, 1491 volts, 2.4. Remember, even though we're using 3 volts, we talked about that. It uses, it's a G8, but it's a DC bayonet mount. And we're going to talk more about bulb bases, because I find that interesting. But here you can see, look at that, huh? Pull one of these out. Now, whenever you see new old stock, of course, these bulbs always had a tendency to get a little bit corrosive on there. But before we put this in, we're going to clean it up, and get all this, that's kind of shelfware. It probably wasn't kept in a climate-controlled environment. We're going to clean this up, polish the base, and then test it out, and then put it in the lamp. Now, to clean the base of this bulb, what we're going to do, because you have to be very careful. See, these bulbs are glued in. There's a glass bulb here that's glued in, and these two contacts will make contact with the filament. So these are actually solder contacts. So you have to be very careful, because over time, this glue, whatever glue they use, sometimes became brittle. And if you twist it too much or turn it too much the wrong way, it could pop off and separate from the base. So you have to be very careful with that. Now, the first thing we're going to use is the Dremel, of course, the Dremel. And we're going to use the wire brush, just gently go around it. And then we're going to use these felt wheels here. Now, if you ever seen these felt wheels there, how you adapt them or how you put them on, there's a little Dremel shaft that has like a screw on it, okay? And what you do is you push that into that hole and turn it. Just turn it like this until it seats in the hole. And when it does, you see what happens. Now you have a fixed felt wheel on your Dremel shaft. And then I'm going to use some 357 Magdad Flitz Special. And we're going to polish that up and see how that comes out. So let's take a look at what that looks like now. We might lose some of the lettering, but we don't care. We know what this bulb is. We just want it, we don't want it corroding in that socket. Okay, here's the bulb with just the wire brushing. You can see it looks very nice. You see we did the bottom, the contacts all cleaned up. But before we use the flitz here, This is always one of those satisfying operations. You know, I always told you that I love a container that comes sealed like that with the little puncture cap. See that little cap with the pin in it? And you just take this like this, press it on, and look at that. Makes a perfect puncture in there. And that's just one of those satisfying things I always love doing. Now, you don't need a lot of flits. A very little bit will do you. And just work it in. Okay, here we are. This is our new old stock. You can see now that the bulb is ready to be put in. You don't have to worry about this now. The corrosion's all gone. The contacts are nice and clean. Let's install. Okay, now here, we open this up here, and you can see those are the two contacts that that bulb is going to be mating with. Now, to clean that up, because it's been years, I'm sure, you just take an eraser, an old, an old pencil, but a soft eraser. Don't get one that's all hard. And just place it on top of the contact here and twist it back and forth, just like this. You're just going to do this, and what's going to happen is it's going to clean up just any oxidation that might be on there. And you can see the difference already. You know, it really just takes off any oxidation, cleans it up, and this way you won't have a problem with the bulb making contact. Okay, now to push the bulb in, just line up the 2 points. You're going to push it in and give it a slight turn to the right. That's it. It's seated. And here we go. We'll flip the switch, and okay, we have light. Houston, we are in business. Now, I might change this over to a different voltage because this is, the 1.5 volts. Right now I'm running on 2 D batteries in here using a holder for 2D batteries, but you could see here, let's take a look at what it looks like in the dark. Okay, here you see what this lantern would look like. By no means is this a bright lantern, but it's definitely cool, right? How cool is that? And you can see here the beam that it throws. And let's try the adjustment here. I'm going to loosen up the back, and then we'll push this. You see that? Oh, look at that. You see how it can go into a flood or a spot? A flood or a spot. That is so cool. And then you could lock it in. So definitely loving this lantern. So there we have it, up and running. Okay, next up I wanted to dive into the very interesting world of batteries. And a lot of people don't realize, some people never knew this, but batteries have been different. There are so many different types of batteries, and I just wanted to go over some of the most popular and also cover the difference between series and in parallel. So let's go check that out. To get that lantern to run, I used what's basically known as a little adapter pack, and this is a small little battery holder that holds 2 D cells, and in this configuration it makes this into 3 volts, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But you can see this takes 2 batteries, takes 2 1.5 volt batteries, and makes it into 3 volts. Now, battery adapters are nothing new. There's many different types. Now you see here, this is a D cell. This is meant to look like a D cell battery. You see, same shape, same basic. Now what you do, this adapts 3 AA batteries. You put 3 AA batteries in here, and it turns it into a D cell. And they have all different types of adapters. Here, this adapter takes 4 D cells and turns it into a lantern style battery like this. Now, here in the United States, our 4 or 5 most common batteries that you're going to see here are the ones as follows. This here is a AAA. This here is a AA battery here. The next one is a C cell, C, and the following one is a D. The D is usually about the biggest that you'll find. Now, however, I'm missing 2 batteries from here because they're not common. One is a 4A. This is AAA. There's a 4A cell, which is thinner than this AAA cell, and then there's a F cell. We don't usually see the F cell here. It's slightly longer and than the D cell, and it has, obviously more power. The F cell, they say there's 4 F cells that power these lantern style batteries. But and then we have, of course, the 9-volt battery. Now, inside the 9-volt battery, it depends on the type of battery. Some have small plates going this way, and some have actually 6 4A batteries. So we're going to open that up to see what's in there in a minute. But one thing you'll notice that these are all the same voltage. They're all the same 1.5 volts. So you say, well, how can they all be the same voltage when they're sold different sizes? Because the voltage remains the same, but the power, the amount of time that it will drive something, varies with the size of the battery. You could get 1.5 volt batteries that are big, you know, huge. You know, it'll be much stronger than a small one. So the smaller the battery, usually the less runtime you have. That's all you have to think of. Now, let me just tell you something about series and parallel. Now here we are going to test the batteries. I'm going to show you on a lot of, this is called a voltometer. Very good to have if you don't have one. And there's a setting on here that says battery. You can see down here it says battery. Now there's usually a 9 volt and a 1.5 volt. And the reason you would use, you could use this, or you can use volts DC, which is direct current, which these are. And you can put on 20, it'll give you the same reading. But the difference is when you put it on battery, it gives you a slight load. It puts a slight load on the battery to give you a more accurate reading. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do now. We're going to take here the 2 probes that we have it on here. The positive always has the top nub on here. So we're going to touch the positive here like that. And then we're going to touch the negative here. Now, if you notice, you're always going to get batteries that are a little bit higher. Instead of 1.500, 1.5 volts, you could see we have 1.544. It's just slightly over. And that's how you can tell a good battery. Again, here, this one here is 1.545. So they're both more than 1.5 volts. No problem. You know, that's just a nominal advantage. But they very rarely do you get one that's exactly a 1.5 volts or something. And usually they're more. Now, when I was talking about batteries before, no matter how many D-size batteries you have, I can have a dozen, I can have 20. If I keep attaching the positive to the positive to the positive all the way down, and the negative, the negative, the negative, it's running in parallel, which means we're going to have the same voltage as one battery, which is 1.5 volts. And I'll show you here. I have a little test set up. Right now, we're going to set it to 1.5 volts here. We're going to touch this probe to the 2 positives on top, this probe to the 2 negatives, and you can see what it says, 1.542. Now, that's in parallel. When we stack them, that's when you add up the voltage. Now, we're going to switch it to 9 volt because we're going to go above 1.5 volts. So now the 1.5 and 1.5 will equal 3 volts. And I'm going to put them together like this, touch the top and the bottom of the 2, and you see what it says over here? 3.08 volts. So when you run the batteries in parallel, you increase the runtime. When you run them in series, you increase the voltage. That's why batteries that you'll see a lot of times in flashlights will be stacked to make them 3 Here we have a 9 volt battery. Let's check what the power, how much voltage we have left on here. This is an old battery. And you can see we have 8.76 volts, which is, it's a little bit low. And you can see here it was expired in 2014. So what do you say we take this battery apart and see exactly what's inside? Okay, you can see basically all we did was open it up like a can of sardines. And here you have the top connector. You can see what that looks like. It was just pressed on here like this. There was a piece of cardboard here, which this one here will take. You see now they're alternating. There's 6 batteries in here, and you have the negative, positive, positive, negative, negative, positive. And you can see here, this strip over here sits on here, and then these 2 contacts, it's only pressed together. There's no solder joints and no nothing. So what's good about saving these, if you do, instead of throwing out your 9 volt battery, take it apart, save this thing. If ever you need a 9 volt connector, you could take this, you could solder 2 tabs on the back, and you have a 9 volt connector. Anyway, here's the batteries inside. You can see it's just a tin case on the bottom. You can see there's more connections, and we'll just pop that out. It's just a tin case here on the bottom, 3 strips, and again, it's positive, it's alternating, but here it is. You have your 6 batteries, and this is the size of a 4A battery. Remember we were saying AAA? Well, this is a 4A battery. They tried to start using these, but they didn't take off here. Now, if we measure this in voltage, it should come up to almost 1.5 volts. and a half, because remember, there's 6 of them will make 9. So here we putting it on here. Watch the voltmeter, and we have 1.445. Remember, it was a little low, so these would normally be volt and a half. So very interesting. And that's on the, again, this is the older Energizers. I don't know if they changed it with the new ones. Remember, I was telling you these small batteries do hold a volt and a half, but if I reverse it like this and I touch the 2 corners, remember this light bulb? This is the same light bulb we used in the in that lantern we just did. If I touch these to the 2 contacts like this, and I'm careful, and I touch the 2 at the back, you can see what happens. You see that? It lights up. Now, how long it'll last, I don't know, but you see that? We get light from these 2 batteries because it added up to 3 volts. Okay, last up, remember last week we spoke about the compression versus tension, which I got some great comments there, but I just want to cover one thing real quick. A lot of people were a little bit, confused on one aspect, and they were saying they like to put it one way or the other because it puts less stress on the fence post, and I'll tell you what I mean. See, this is now set up in the tension, and they think that if you push down here, you're pulling on the top of the fence post, and, leverage when it's better to push on the bottom than pull on the top. And that would be absolutely true, except it doesn't matter. The fence post doesn't know what the gate is, what configuration the gate is set up. You will always, no matter what you have, when you put weight here, you're always going to be putting pressure on the lower part of the gate and pulling on the top part of the gate, whether it's in tension like it is here, compression, whatever way you have it set up, you're going to have the same forces on the fence post. And that's because you got to think of it as blind. Let's say we had a sheet of plywood hanging off of this board, where there was no racking, no movement or whatever. Just think of one solid piece. If you push down here, you're going to get pressure here and you're going to get pulling here. That's just the nature of the beast. So that has nothing to do with sagging of the gate. That's why, another thing, if your gate is doing this, it's because your fence post isn't strong enough. You always have to make your fence post the strongest part of any gate, and then we'll fix the sagging with the cross bracing. So it has nothing to do. Either way, we'll put the same stress on all the hinges. So in closing, how fast did today's episode go? It was fast, even though it took me about 5 hours to film this episode, but it was fast for you. Anyway, hope you have a great middle of the week, and we'll see you again on Friday. Take care now. Bye-bye.